We'll talk to kids at the Maine Anjou Junior Nationals. Plus, all 5 members of Nebraska's congressional delegation talk farm policy. Will we get a farm bill soon? Later, how Husker scientists may have found a universal swine flu vaccine. And how sorghum is in the global spotlight. It's time to grow. Between the debt ceiling and defense spending, time may be running out to pass the farm bill this year.
We are able to do see and spray. You guys want to talk?
See and spray. Congressman Don Bacon gets an education in autonomous agriculture. Farming has changed, and that could impact the hundreds of billions the federal government spends through the farm bill.
We need to get this right as best we can heading into another 5-year period.
There was hope Congress would act soon, but when Republicans fought an increase in the debt limit, they pushed for cuts to SNAP, also known as food stamps.
The biggest hurdle that we've already sort of dealt with, and that is the SNAP program.
But Senator Deb Fischer says lines have been drawn in the sand. Plus, Congress has defense and aviation spending to approve.
I'm being more cautious now, Steve, in looking at everything we have to get done, knowing that there could be extensions and things are moving slower than I think all of us planned.
Extending current programs is one option, although that raises concerns that the cost of production has risen and programs may not keep pace. As all 5 members of Nebraska's congressional delegation tour the university, they express support for research. There's also broad support to prioritize crop insurance.
We've had 2 years of drought here. Many farmers could not have survived with 2 years of drought without a crop insurance program.
But farming is a small piece of the farm bill. The debate could come down to food stamps and how the bill brings together rural and urban.
Find that balance then between about the 17% of the farm bill that deals with farming and about 80% of the farm bill that deals with nutrition programs. We're going to get there.
It'll be a little messy, but in the end, we're going to get a bipartisan farm bill done.
One thing the delegation learned on their visit is from dairy producers who want to keep chocolate milk on the menu for school kids, something some nutritionists have been pushing for to reduce the amount of sugar kids consume. And Senator Deb Fischer announced she has secured $25 million to construct a new USDA research facility at UNL, with those funds coming next year. Fischer also announced continued funding for the Drought Mitigation Center. The bill must still be voted on by the full House and Senate, but advanced from committee on a unanimous vote. Fischer says Nebraska is a world-renowned leader in ag research and says these high-impact investments need to continue. The package also includes funding for USDA research critical to the beef industry that takes place at the U.S. Meat Animal Research Center in Clay Center. Husker researchers may be poised to turn the tide on a virus that could cause a pandemic as they do work on creating a universal vaccine for the swine flu. Soldiers roll up their sleeves to get their shot.
That spread around the world. There was panic.
Not COVID, but another outbreak.
Relatively easy to forget that we had a swine flu pandemic in 2009.
More than 12,000 Americans died. Now Dr. Eric Weaver leads a team at the University of Nebraska giving long-lasting protection.
We're now looking into making swine vaccines that not only protect against a broad level of swine influenza, but also human influenza.
Weaver calls hogs a mixing vessel where human and bird strains of the flu come together and mutate. So if swine herds can be vaccinated, it could reduce the spread to us. Results are promising.
We're expecting to see immunity last for multiple years.
While COVID didn't necessarily change their approach, it did drive home the problem with vaccines that wear off quickly.
Come on forward.
Something many experienced.
Right in.
I got vaccinated, I got boosted, and last year I got infected.
Weaver doesn't want that to happen here, and their work shows a pig vaccinated at 5 pounds still has protection at 400 pounds.
You imagine such a small animal being immunized, and it grew and the immune response grew with it.
Developing the vaccine takes time, and they've used that to their advantage, testing it against strains that didn't exist when their work began.
It was almost a time travel experiment.
And Weaver says it did protect against new strains. They've got more work to do, but repeated results boost confidence it works in pigs. If successful, it could lead to new human flu shots, maybe one given to infants with the potential to last years.
And you get boosted again in your 50s. To me, that sounds like a much better plan than going every single year and getting your flu shot.
Dubbed the Party on the Platte, Buffalo County Fairgrounds playing host to the National Junior Nationals Show. Folks from all over the country were at the fairgrounds with their families and cattle to participate in different contests. One of them, cattle dressed up, being judged in their outfits. This marks the 23rd year of the event, moving through Midwestern states over the years. Even though it's a national show, a lot of people unfamiliar with the breed.
Well, they don't really know like it's going on. Like my dad, he's from Grand Island, and he didn't really know like that cows like can be shown. He just thought they were used for pets and like meat and stuff. So a lot of people don't know what's going on because they don't know that we can actually show them and stuff.
The National Junior Nationals Show wrapped up Friday. Lab-grown meat, what's the impact on Nebraska beef? Gary Robinson has our story.
Do farmers in Nebraska have competition? Lab-grown meat has just been approved by the USDA and the FDA to be sold in the U.S. This decision starts a new era of meat production that eliminate the slaughter of animals. But those in the cattle industry in Nebraska, like Buck Wordbine, don't believe that this decision will negatively affect their business.
We've competed with plant-based protein for decades, and we have no problem competing with other protein sources and so forth. But it would be important to us that the labeling is accurate so people know what they're purchasing and what they're eating.
Many think that animals in the cattle industry are being fed and treated poorly, but at least from Wordbine's standpoint, he says that's not the case.
Most of them live till they're yearlings, about a year old, and eating grass and forage and so forth because they're ruminants. And then most of the cattle in the United States, we like grain-fed beef, and so they end up going into a feedlot, and that's what I do. I finish the cattle here.
Even though new types of proteins are coming into play, according to Wordbine, the Nebraska meat industry is here to stay.
We're here at Fauner Park at the Maine Anjou Junior Nationals. Last week, classic tractors were on display in these grounds, including some restored by kids on the night shift. Well, I tell you what, something sure caught my eye at Red Power Roundup, some pretty nice red iron behind me, and then I found out who it was who restored these machines. Alan Shepard's joining me. He's from Washington, Missouri.
Four Rivers Career Center.
Four Rivers Career Center. And you guys, it's kind of a tech high school, and your instructor, basically, you guys tore these machines down and rebuilt it and did all the work. Is that what I understand?
Yep. We have an afternoon program called Night Shift, and every Tuesday and Thursday night, the juniors and seniors at the Career Center, they volunteer their time and they tear these tractors apart and do a nut and bolt restoration on them, and we end up taking them to shows and having fun with them.
So, I mean, you really get down to the nuts and bolts, and everything is getting a look at here.
Oh, yeah. We completely overhaul the engines on them, go through the transmissions, do any bearing seals, any gears that need to be replaced on them. We completely grind down the castings on them and polish out the cast on them so you can't hardly tell where the sheet metal starts and the casting stops. So it's quite an experience.
Well, are they in pretty good shape when you get them, or are some of them pretty rough?
We've had several tractors that we probably should have scrapped, but we come back and save them and keep them from going to the salvage yard.
That's a lot of work. I mean, it can't just be you. Is there quite a few people who volunteer their time to do this?
There's an average of probably 10 kids per year that work on each of these tractors, and there's roughly 4,000 hours that go into these tractors just because of the cosmetic condition that we take them to.
Then when you bring them to a show like this, it really is kind of a showstopper. I bet you get a lot of people like, oh my goodness, here.
Yeah, we get a lot of people come by and love to talk to the kids and see what they're doing in life, and yeah, we have a good time.
And then you're a graduate, you've been out of the program, but you even have some people continue coming back because they can't get enough.
Yeah, so we have kids that have graduated, and they've either went into an automotive trade or I'm in an ag trade. Teach them how to do body work and mechanical work and share an experience. And
did this kind of even help you just personally of deciding, I think I want to work with tractors?
Yes, and I work for an ag dealership back home in Washington, Missouri, and this definitely piqued my interest and helped me understand what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Of course, the modern machinery, it's a little different than working on some of these classic machines.
Oh yeah, the modern machinery, it requires a lot more technology and computer work, but this is my hobby. I love doing this kind of stuff, so it's fun.
And you just see the smiles on people's faces and they hear the stories from people. I bet it makes it worth it, doesn't it?
Oh, it makes it completely worthwhile. Talking to all the old timers that used to run this stuff and go, oh my gosh, I had many hours of sitting on that seat, and it's like, yeah, well, I haven't, but I sure like sitting on them and plowing with them or picking corn or doing whatever. But
very good. Well, Alan, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Stay with us as we visit with the juniors here at the Maine Anjou Show. Up next, sorghum on a global stage.
This portion of NTV's Grow is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
Pleased to be joined by Nate Bloom, CEO of Sorghum United. And Nate, you had a great opportunity recently to travel internationally and represent at the Global Sorghum Conference.
I did, Steve. Thanks. Great to see you as always, and happy to represent Nebraska on a global stage. But big takeaway to your question is just the amount of research that is finally going into sorghum. People are recognizing the importance of the crop on health and nutrition, as well as the environmental benefits as our climate changes and gets warmer. And so finally those research dollars are going into it. So it's very exciting, great to connect with folks from around the world, and I'm really optimistic about where sorghum and millets are going next.
Just the versatility of sorghum, because you're talking about the health and the food side of it, but then there's also use it as a feedstock for biofuel production and all of those other things. There's a lot of different versatile, really cool, exciting uses that I think people are working on.
That's right. It's all food, fuel, and fiber. And people ask me, well, what can you use sorghum for? The answer is always, well, what can you use any grain for, really? Again, so it's ethanol. It's food, whether it's in the form of flour or as a whole or a pearled grain. But it's also in those industrial materials, blow-in insulation, packing peanuts. Actually, most packing peanuts now have some amount of sorghum in them, so they're biodegradable. And everything from temporary building materials to carbon fiber. So it's really exciting to see, again, the advances that have been coming in the sorghum industry, even in the last 5 years since I've been working in the industry. So,
just in terms of, I don't want to say this, more from an agronomic perspective, from a grower's perspective, where does this sorghum fit in, and should we unlock some of these new potentials? What does that then unlock for a producer who grows sorghum?
Right. Well, the number one thing for sorghum producers in Nebraska that I hear from them, or even I should even say corn and soybean producers, is they tell me they would grow it if they had somewhere to sell it. So one of our big challenges is creating those markets. So while we love seeing the research on, increasing yields or increasing oil capacity or some of these other things, what we need to do more work on, and what our organization really puts our bread and butter in, is building markets, both here at home as well as globally. And we say, listen, let's find ways in which we can attract businesses, production, food, whether it's food, fuel, or fiber production, that's proximate to the production of the grain. And so we can maybe offset and mitigate some of the market risk that comes with commodity markets through value-added and intentional agriculture. And then we're creating jobs as well as increasing on-farm revenues in that way. So,
stay with us. What's happening in the weather? Our Grow Weather Outlook is next.
NTV's Grow Weather is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
Despite the rain, the drought monitor, not much in the way of improvement this week in Kansas. 4% drought-free. The ever-shrinking northeast corner abnormally dry. 96% moderate drought, 79.5%. The severe, 57.25%, and the extreme this week is ramped up to 40%, 7.76% in Kansas is exceptional drought. And Nebraska, worse in the exceptional drought category at 12%. Not as bad in the extreme, though, at 25.33%. Severe, 54.5%. And then moderate, 76%. of the Cornhusker State, 98.75% abnormally dry, and there is just a 1.29% area drought-free, and that just happens this week to be in the southern part, southwest corner of the Panhandle. Well, July temperatures are out. The estimation is that we will see above normal temperatures all but the northwest corner of Nebraska, otherwise above in both Nebraska and Kansas. And then precipitation, the northern, northeast tier counties of Nebraska above normal, otherwise normal for the rest of Nebraska and Kansas. That is always good news. July, August, September, temperatures above normal, southeast Nebraska, most of Kansas, except kind of that northwest, north central part of the state. Otherwise, all of Nebraska, except that southeast corner for the 3-month outlook, normal temperatures. And then above normal for the next 3 months, July, August, September, all but that western portion of Kansas, and that is to be normal for the 3-month average. So look at that. Does that mean we're finally going to dig out of the drought? Wouldn't that be nice? 85 expected tomorrow, a nice cool low tonight around 57. We do warm up midweek to 90. Chances of showers and storms mainly in the evening, late afternoon, only 30%. We're going to cool down to 84 then as we roll into next Friday. Normal highs 86. That's where we're going to be this week. Normal lows 63. Only 2 degrees off of that. And the proverb, prairie dogs bank up their holes with grass and dirt before a storm. If they are playful, as those little dogs will be, it's a sign of fair weather. That is your Grow Report for this week. Join us again next time when, once again, it will be time to grow.
Whether you were at Red Power Roundup or maybe checking out some livestock shows in recent days, we want to see your pictures. Go to our website, Nebraska.tv, and chime in. These kids probably won't be playing volleyball or football when they're grown, but this they can do for a lifetime. Coming up, how cattle shows provide lifetime learning opportunities.
Ag Outlook on NTV's Grow is driven by Cornhusker Toyota Honda, home of the Toyota Tacoma and Tundra trucks, and Nebraska's only dual Toyota Honda dealer.
The quest for a championship begins with early morning workouts, coaching, clinics, and more. Not just on the track or in the basketball arena, but in the livestock arena, where some kids put in the time to show off on a national level. A pep talk from Dad before walking past neon lights. National titles are on the line.
This is their main show. So like our ages go from age 4 to all the way to 22.
As kids show their cattle to a judge, Abby Stahlbommer wears the blue blazer. She's on the junior board for the National Maine Anjou Association. She's also a state track champion and knows what it takes to win. A mindset not different on the court or in the barn.
For a lot of these kids, this is their sport.
There's a lot of kids that do baseball, softball, football.
Where we might practice volleyball every single day and have games 3 times a week, we work with these calves every single day.
But for these kids that grew up on a farm or outside of town, you know, this is what they do. They work with their cattle every day, all week.
And hit the weekends every single weekend in the spring.
And like sports, it's a commitment of time and money. But for many, this is also directly related to how their families make a living. And many families want to pass along their land and legacy.
And that would definitely be our goal, and to try to help facilitate that however we can, and this is just one of the ways.
Where the next generation is in this building, right?
Competition in the livestock arena is fierce, but contests challenge kids in areas ranging from photography to public speaking.
Trying to sell their animal, and really you're trying to sell yourself, which you'll do for, job interviews coming up.
Many get a start at a young age.
Our main thing here is family, so the second you unload the trailer, there's people here for you every step of the way.
Families plan vacations and weddings around cattle shows, but it's still a people business.
The connections we make will very much benefit us in the future. The good life becoming the sweet life for the Maine Anjou Junior Nationals. We've had a great time hanging out here in the barns, and another big cattle show, the Angus event, just about a week away. And we'll see you next time as we see how agriculture makes Nebraska grow.
NTV's Grow is brought to you by Aurora Cooperative. Tougher together, Aurora and you.